road, not a planet anymore. Why does it matter? According to scientists, he doesn't fit the criteria to be considered a planet, so they call him a moon. Maybe to you, categorization is just relative. Maybe you think he should be called a planet. But maybe to you, it's arbitrary and he should be distinguished as something else. Either way, categorization matters. We categorize people as well in order to provide order to the world. So raise your hand if you're a senior. Raise your hand if you're an English major. Raise your hand if you're a junior. And how about worship arts majors? According to Henry Pagefeld and John Turner's social identity theory, these are all social identities that we categorize ourselves into. They theorized that we derive our personal identities based on the social groups we identify with. The three mental processes that are involved in this theory are social categorization, social identification, and social comparison. They develop in progression based on one another. They ask the question, who do we consider to be associated with us, and why? And what are the consequences of doing that? Keep in mind, this is an objective analysis, but we can derive socio-ethical views from this theory. Understanding this theory is important because it can be applied to how different racial groups, religious groups, and political groups interact. It can then allow us to decide how we act in relation to other groups and how we view other groups. Categorizing yourself is the basis of developing your social identity. It's the identification of ourselves as a label. Consider students and faculty. We are students, they are faculty. That doesn't mean they're our enemy. It just means they're in a different category. Once you've identified with a group, you can identify how that affects your personal identity. We determine this with social identification. It's how we act around other groups and within our own group specifically. This is done through several ways. Speech accommodation is one. It's a theory by Howard Giles that says we tailor our speech, the way we speak, to that of someone else's when we want to be accepted by them. Groups will also use symbols to strengthen their bond as a group. And a person will want to use those symbols in order to be more accepted by the group. So we wear Judson t-shirts to represent our student identity, but maybe also when everything else is dirty. You may also prioritize the group's agenda over your own when you want to be accepted by them. So maybe Sunday morning, I'm feeling very tired and I don't want to go to church, but I know that my small group is questioning my faith in Jesus, so maybe I should go this morning. Once you've joined a group and formed your identity based on that group's values, we start to identify who we are not. Social comparison is comparing your group's identity to another's. We are college students, they are faculty. In-grouping and out-grouping. It's the us and them. It manifests in several ways. Saul McLeod of simplypsychology.org, in his analysis of Pagefeld and Turner's work, cites these as common examples. Nazis versus Jews, Catholics versus Protestants, and males versus females. Some of them are mortal enemies and some of them are not. The more a person invests and values a group for their social identity, the more their self-esteem is invested in that group. Thus, a person will want to defend that group identity in order to secure their self-esteem. For example, after 9/11, many Americans felt more unified against a common enemy. Groups will also accentuate similarities and dissimilarities. They'll accentuate similarities within their own group and dissimilarities with other groups. This can lead to naming, which is a derogatory form of what happens. So they'll use derogatory language with other groups and positive language with their own. For example, Christians will consider themselves children of God, while they may consider atheists to be pagans or heathens. Atheists may consider Christians to be Bible thumpers or Jesus freaks, while they consider themselves to be intellectuals. In conclusion, we're not trying to moralize whether these processes are right or wrong. It's simply an objective observation of what people go through when they identify with a group. These three processes, categorization, identification, and comparison, further promotes a sense of self-esteem and personal identity. Understanding how different groups interact, such as political groups, racial groups, and religious groups, is important because it allows us to decide how we want to communicate with other groups and how we're going to change how we communicate with other groups. Now we can even understand how other planets may view poor Pluto.
Okay, I gotta say my little buddy for the second time now. He's a dwarf planet, one of 5 dwarf planets in our solar system. He's not a moon. That would make him a satellite. He doesn't orbit something else. He orbits the sun.
Exactly.
Like, he's a dwarf planet.
To you.
It does matter to me. I can't call him a moon. You did take out the Death Star reference, though.
I did.
You could have kept it. All right, Heather, you said that, I was just writing the question, what can we take away from this theory? As we walk away, how can we apply it? And then you said how we communicate with other groups. What does that mean, how we communicate with other groups? What do you mean by that?
Well, for instance, if you consider yourself a Christian, I would say it's not a good idea to outcast everyone else and say, you're a heathen, you're a pagan. Maybe they don't believe what you believe. So that doesn't mean you should use derogatory language in reference to them. You should say, well, they believe in something else, and we're still going to love them and care about them. But it's deciding whether you're going to use derogatory language. It's deciding whether you're going to treat other people badly just because they're different.
So I'm hearing 2 ways then you're saying to apply it. One is the language we use. The other is the way we socially identify them in our minds.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Until it's the end of the day. What is it about this theory that drew you in? I mean, do you disagree with the theory? Do you agree with it? Why does it matter to you?
I agree with the theory because it is an objective theory, and there isn't much to agree or disagree with. It's just an analysis of what happens, human behavior, and how it manifests. I think there's a lot of truth to it, and I think it's a good theory because it does allow you to understand the way you act. And I know that a lot of people I've explained this to didn't think about the way that their identity interacts with another identity, and I think that's important.
Okay, Okay, I'll ask the third question. You're a media writing major, just like Helen. How can you use this theory in that particular major or approach to what you want to do with a career? I know you're interested in the LA Film School. How does this theory interact with that in your mind?
Well, I'm particularly interested in making cinema, and I've had a lot of issue with the way that movies represent different identities and the bias that comes with a lot of that. When the movie's about something completely different, they'll interject propaganda into the movie that is really unnecessary. And if you want to reach an audience for your story, I think it's not necessary to interject derogative references to other groups that kind of outcast those groups from viewing the movie. One example is, filmmakers constantly use priests in a bad light. And I'd like to not do that type of thing, even with groups that I don't agree with. If I want to make a strong Christian film, I don't want to make the atheist look bad in my film. If you want to reach someone, you should show love to them and understanding.
Any other questions? Abby?
So do you want to strictly go into making films that are only about Christianity, or do you want to branch out and make other films as well?
I want to make good films in general, and I think I'm not interested in making films in the Christian genre that are only geared towards Christians. I'm interested in making films that appeal to everyone, that have a strong moral message. And I think that if you have a strong moral message, it may lead someone to agree with Christianity, but maybe not.
Good, thank you, Heather.